Let me start with a question that might sting a little. Why is it that the kindest, most thoughtful, most considerate people, the ones who remember birthdays, who listen without judgment, who would drop everything for you, why is it that they are so often the ones left behind, watching someone else get chosen? It doesn't make sense, right? We grow up being told kindness is everything. Be nice and people will like you. Be generous and they'll love you. But then reality happens. You send the thoughtful message and it gets ignored. You plan the perfect date and it goes nowhere. You give everything you have and somehow it's never enough. If you've ever found yourself in that position, you know how confusing it is. Because logically, kindness should be magnetic. Yet too often, it feels like the very thing pushing people away. So what's going on? Here's the first big truth I want you to hear. There's a massive difference between authentic kindness and what I call performative niceness. Authentic kindness is powerful. It connects, it uplifts, it builds trust. Performative niceness, the kind that comes from fear, from needing approval, from trying to earn love, does the opposite. It disconnects, it suffocates, it sabotages. Let's break this down. The psychology behind being too nice. Think for a moment about someone you know who is always agreeable. They never say no. They never challenge you. They're always available, always ready to please. At first glance, it feels comfortable, but stay around long enough, and something strange happens. You stop respecting them. You might even stop noticing them. Why? Because human psychology is wired this way. We value what is scarce. We respect what has boundaries. We lean into what challenges us. When someone erases their edges, their boundaries, their opinions, their needs, they become like water with no container. They spill everywhere, but they have no shape. And without shape, there's no impact. Now let's get honest. Why do so many of us fall into this trap? The answer is simple. Fear. Fear of being rejected. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of not being enough, just as we are. So instead of showing up authentically, we create a strategy. If I'm nice enough, agreeable enough, selfless enough, maybe they'll keep me. But here's the cruel irony. That very strategy is what makes people lose interest. Because people don't fall in love with masks. They fall in love with humanity. The raw, flawed, vibrant humanity you keep hiding. Let me tell you about Michael, a client of mine. Michael was the nicest guy you could ever meet. He remembered everyone's coffee order. He never said no. He would cancel his own plans if someone else wanted his time. He thought that if he gave enough, people would eventually give back. But what actually happened? He got overlooked, overworked, and often ghosted. One day, he realized something heartbreaking in trying so hard to be liked. He had made himself invisible. He wasn't showing up as Michael anymore, just as a reflection of what other people wanted. When Michael began setting boundaries small at first, like saying, "Sorry, I'm not available tonight," or "Actually, I disagree," something shifted. People started leaning in. They started noticing him. They respected him more. And the women he dated, they were suddenly far more interested. Because now, they were meeting the real Michael, not a performance. Here's another principle of human connection. Attraction needs tension. It needs polarity. If you're endlessly predictable, if every answer is yes, if every request is met with compliance, you're safe, but you're not compelling. Think about it. The most engaging people in your life are not the ones who agree with everything you say. They're the ones who challenge you, who surprise you, who make you pause and think. Predictability breeds comfort, but comfort doesn't spark desire. And here's where being too nice becomes truly destructive. Because when you're constantly giving at your own expense, resentment builds, quietly, slowly, but inevitably. And resentment is like rust in a relationship, invisible at first, but it corrodes everything. It shows up as passive aggression, as sudden outbursts, as withdrawal of affection. Ironically, in trying to avoid conflict by always being nice, you guarantee a much bigger conflict later. Real kindness comes from strength, not sacrifice. It says, I care about you, and I also care about me. Performative niceness says, I'll erase myself if it means you might keep me around. Do you feel the difference? One invites connection, the other breeds imbalance. So what's the alternative? How do we escape the trap of being too nice, without swinging to the other extreme, and becoming cold or selfish? The answer is what I call integrated kindness. It's kindness that includes yourself in the equation. Here's what it looks like. 1. Speak your truth. Disagreement doesn't kill attraction, it fuels it. Thoughtful disagreement creates spark. 2. Value your time. Don't always be instantly available. Not as a game, but because your life is full and meaningful. 3. Set boundaries. Boundaries are not barriers. They're signposts that say, this is how I respect myself, and this is how you can respect me too. 4. Give without agenda. Generosity should flow because it feels good, not because you're secretly keeping score. 5. Embrace space, silence, distance, pauses. These create depth. Attraction often grows in the space between. Now, let me say this, stepping into authenticity is terrifying at first, because it means risking rejection for who you truly are, instead of being accepted for a version of yourself you've carefully curated. But here's the paradox. The moment you stop performing, you become magnetic. The moment you stop trying to earn love, you start attracting it. Why? Because authenticity resonates. It cuts through the noise. It gives people permission to drop their own masks. There's a beautiful irony here. When you stop trying so hard to be liked, you become more likable. When you stop chasing approval, you earn more respect. When you honor yourself, others begin to honor you too. The too nice version of you might earn temporary attention, but the authentic version of you, that's what builds lasting connection. So here's my invitation to you. Step out of the prison of being too nice, not to become unkind, but to become real. To embody kindness that is rooted in strength. To show up as someone with opinions, edges, values, and boundaries. Because the world doesn't need more agreeable masks. It needs more authentic humans, and the connections you form from that place, raw, unfiltered, real, those are the ones that will last.